When I came to Canada with my mom in '97, my mom told me that North America was a land of freedom, of opportunity, and multiculturalism. She always told me that we were home. But lately it's been starting to feel less like home, more like isolation and feeling alone, because things that I hear got me chilled to the bone. We're still fighting discrimination based on religion and skin tone. And even years after segregation and indigenous Holocaust, all I see is people walking over other people. Guns are cocking over people, and self-interest makes the cruel start talking over people, trying to drown out their voices. But I hear them loud and clear, and I see them because they're here. The melting pot of North America runs on fear, because here, people are more concerned with celebrity gossip and living urban, that cultural awareness is just a burden. Wake up, meet real people, and start learning, because people that fear Muslims avoid Sikh people wearing turbans. And that's not even something that Muslims wear. And to that point, there's something else that I'd like to share. The Muslims that brought down the Twin Towers, they brought our people nothing but shame. Why would terrorism be something God would ever proclaim? Real jihad is about picking up the pen and using your brain. Some people generalize and think that we're one and the same. I think they're ignorantly looking for somebody to blame. Because my mom was walking home, broad daylight in Mississauga, Ontario, walking down by Dundas in here, Ontario, when a car pulled up and threw coffee on her, threw garbage on her, no respect or honor. They drove off as she wept on the street corner, and they yelled, "Go home, you terrorist. Go home, you terrorist." Home. But this is home. Home with the true north, strong and the free. Isn't this where you can be whoever you want it to be? Isn't home where we embrace differences between you and me? Isn't home where we celebrate our diversity? Isn't home where your neighbors catch you in adversity? Don't you agree? So to the real terrorists, the people who hurt the innocent, the children and women like my mother, those who generalize others based on misconceptions, stop with your misconceptions. Find the truth beneath the lies. The next time you want to mess around, pick on someone your own size. No. Scratch that. I'm not here to fight, because my mom taught me better. I just hope that we can change our home together. When this happened to my mom, I was so appalled. I could not believe it. I was baffled. Because we live in Mississauga, Ontario, and this is the greater Toronto area. I would say one of the most culturally and religiously diverse communities in our country, if not the entire world. How is it that people could still be ignorant amongst this beautiful cultural tapestry? It didn't make sense to me. And I was upset because my mom is the nicest person in the world. She has a heart big enough for every single person, all 7 billion of us. And she didn't deserve that. But hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. You guys with me? And when this happened, I realized that this isn't a story that's just exclusive to my mom. This has been so widely experienced by so many different people. When the Italian, Portuguese, Polish people came to this country decades ago, they were also treated like second-class citizens. And it goes deeper. Do you know why they call it the paddy wagon? Because the police car was used to transport the Pats, the Patricks, the Irish. Let's go deeper. I was here in Thunder Bay just a month ago, and for the first time I was working with youth that were in juvenile detention centers. And I met a 12-year-old Indigenous boy. Each one of those kids, by the way, were Indigenous youth. And I met a 12-year-old boy who was Native. And we started having a conversation. He loved hip-hop, and I liked hip-hop too. And we started talking, we were kicking it. And I started asking about his culture because I think indigenous culture is fascinating. And I'm a student at U of T, and I took a course on intro to indigenous culture, and I loved it. And I wanted to learn more about it. And so when I asked him about his culture, he said, Wali, I don't know about it because my parents went to residential schools. Our country has committed cultural genocide on its indigenous people. And it hasn't only just impacted those that were there, but the next generation. And this is how deep this hole of discrimination goes. And I haven't even started scratching the surface on gender-based discrimination or discrimination based on sexual orientation. That is another story entirely. But I want to say this. Society is hurting. Society is completely broken. But it doesn't mean it has to be that way. My mom taught me better than to respond to violence with violence. And when this happened to my mom, I wanted to write a poem about it so that one day the people that did this to my mom could hear my poem and hear my words and learn something. The truth is that all of us have stories, have powerful narratives. And when we roll up our sleeves, and I know it's not easy, but when we roll up our sleeves and say, these are my scars, then that's the first step towards creating change. And change happens in baby steps, but when you show your scars to the world and you say, this is my narrative, you'll find that you have so much more in common with people than you do in contrast. And that's real, because pain is universal. We might have different religious beliefs or different skin color, but we all bleed. Is that not true? So my call to action is this. Don't be afraid to share your narrative, because your narrative is powerful. You all have strong voices. And change starts in baby steps. Change starts with you and your story. Thank you.
Standing ovation, man.
This is awesome.